welcome back everybody to another episode of Golden Rhino Games Hobby Talk, and I've got Luke with me again.
What up?
It's for our Star Wars episode, I promise. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Anyway, we are back on the tails of Adepticon. It was a ton of fun. We've got a bunch of events to talk about, models to show off, and cool new things coming up. But before I get started, Luke, what are you excited for? What are you excited about?
Oh, he already knows. Old World. The Adepticon reveals for Cathay. Oh my gosh, I can't wait for those to come out.
This is like, you know what? Let me just get this out of the way right now because we are going to fangirl over this for a little too long.
Oh my gosh. You should have saved it for the end because we're just not going to get through the rest of it, honestly. I could talk about Cathay for like the next 3 years straight. But
yeah, so Cathay, right? Just to kind of get it out of the way, I will say this, that of the Adepticon preview from Games Workshop, that was probably one of the most impressive parts. The models look fantastic. The dragons to giant sentinels, and honestly, probably my favorite part are the cannons. The dragon-headed cannons, I think, are super cool. I'm very excited for those. You will see those in an Age of Sigmar Cities of Sigmar army soon.
And every other army where people can make them work, I'm sure. Like, I know people have always said, like, Age of Sigmar gets like the best models. They got the Age of Sigmar design team to do Cathay. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, it has to be for sure. Yeah. No, honestly, for me, it's a huge improvement. I love the look of the models. I love the look of the game. It is definitely kind of like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna bust back out my Beast of Chaos.
Yeah.
Give them their second, or in this case, back to their first life, and play them again. I think that'll be a lot of fun. But seeing Cathay be released really is like, yeah, you know what? Old World is here. It is here to stay, and I'm excited for you, Luke.
I appreciate that. But also, speaking of Beastmen, because I know Cathay kind of took over the show for everyone, but Beastmen and Wood Elves are coming back, right? They're getting their arcane journals, they're getting old units back, and some new ones that I doubt most people have seen in a very long time, like the Praeton, right, for Beastmen.
What?
It's a flying monster with the head of a deer.
Okay, cool.
Think like a Chimera, but more Beastman themed, almost, right?
Makes sense.
So Old World's doing well. There were reveals for 40K. The Space Wolves reveal, I know people...
that was an instant, when can I pre-order this army text that I got.
Those went very well. Age of Sigmar, the new Death Rattle skeletons, I think look fantastic. Right?
Absolutely.
Those were models that 100% needed an update and newer stuff, and they look gorgeous. I love them.
Yeah, I know some people were a little disappointed in the lack of new release for Age of Sigmar, but I do actually appreciate that Games Workshop took the time to say, hey, Spearhead is actually a thing that we're going to support and continue to do. So here's at least 4 new boxes and new ways to play, which I think is really cool. Plus, what I noticed is they actually included some of the Underworld's warbands in them, which are more like hero units to lead your Spearhead. And that's what I said. So
I didn't even notice that.
So now I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to have to go back and play that a couple of times and before I pick up the new Seraphon one, because I've got some Seraphon dinosaurs to add to. So, because apparently this is Year of the Dinosaur. So no, that was super cool. Actually, is there any other Games Workshop reveals that you would like to point out?
I think that was most of it.
Yeah. I mean, for us, right? Like, I will say this, them leading with Cathay, it was all downhill from there. And I mean that in the most positive way possible, right? That was an amazing army reveal, and we haven't seen something like that since a new edition of 40K or Age of Sigmar armies, right, when they come out. So that was super cool. Seeing the new stuff for Shatterpoint, Shatterpoint and Legion get talked about, more predominantly Legion, I do apologize, because they are actually finally announcing they are coming out with new starter sets, they're coming out with new model kits. They are, redoing the plastics, but they are doing additional units and things like that. The changes to the game, I know, have been seeing a lot of tug of war action between players. And my only disappointment at all in it is the fact that it's very hard for somebody new to get into it, right? It's very hard for me to tell somebody and get excited about it when I can't sell them a new thing on the box or on the shelf. But with the new stuff coming up, I'm very excited for that. And then the announcement of the organized play for Shatterpoint and the continuation of that's going to be fantastic. So, and to play off that, we actually have a cool special guest today.
Oh, yeah?
Brian's going to be in. He's going to be helping us with all of our Star Wars Shatterpoint stuff, at least. And we're going to have him on today to talk about that. The other big thing, too, though, is I have recently in the last 6 months or so, kind of gotten attached to and following War Machine again.
Oh, yeah.
And they announced a lot of new stuff for that. Another system where they're going to be doing organized play and competitive play and organized paint nights, and they're really actually providing for that, which is cool. Plus they did the whole, here's the new things that are coming up, and one of the things that they showed off, which I thought was absolutely crazy, is the new Colossal for Chimera. That is the new twisted dragon demon, or not demons, sorry, everyone's gonna yell at me now.
Different thing.
Dragon machines, because it's a hybrid of the Everblight, which is really cool.
Okay.
That's the army that I've been playing for a while now, and it is this awesome I'm not gonna say headed, because it really is like 3 snakes twisting around each other. And I'm going to say it right now. Thank you, Zeke. I know you were out there somewhere. You caught me at Adepticon, and he bought me the last one.
Oh.
He got it off the shelf for me, so I literally have it at home. I'm building it right now. It is amazing. I'm not joking when I say the body is this big.
Oh, geez. That is a big model.
Yeah. It's going to be super cool.
I'm happy to hear that for like Legion and for War Machine, they're coming out with more of an emphasis on organized, like not so much competitive, but just organized play, right? Because that is something that like any game kind of lives and dies by. Is there a way to play it? Is there a way to get engaged with the community, right? And like you can always do like one-on-one games or like one-off casual games pretty easily, but the thing that gets the community together and everyone talking to everyone else really is that organized play. So it's good to see them supporting that.
Yeah. So we're going to get into it in a bit, because we're going to take a little bit of a segue from our normal segments, because obviously we got Adepticon to talk about. But I will pick up on that when we get back to it, because there's some really cool stuff, and I do want to talk about how truly amazing Adepticon has become from just the last time that I had been to it, and as well as when I first got into it, which I think the first year I went was 2015. So to give you kind of an idea of some growth there. But before we do that, let's jump into some events. So we're here obviously at Golden Rhino Games, and we are going into the last month that we have our event hall space rented out for. So we want to take advantage of it and make sure you guys know all about the events coming up. So what we've done, we've broken up our list into 2 weeks worth of events. We're going to be doing this now and going into the future, hopefully, so that you can see and hear and know about what's coming up. So a couple of things. First things first, we have our Conquest, Last Argument to Kings, Master and Apprentice doubles format. This is the really fun, beginner-friendly doubles team format. This is actually because of Conquest and because of trying to get the community involved and engaged and get new players to play and feel comfortable playing, we created this system and we now branched it out for a lot of different games, which has been fun. But the idea is really simple. There is going to be 1,000 points per player, and you're going to be randomly paired up with another player of a different or similar faction, but it's going to be based on skill level. So how many games of Conquest have you played?
Not a one.
Okay, awesome. So we're not in the best team here, but I've played a few. So you and I would team up together and we would end up battling it out over the 3 rounds. There's no pressure, there's no fuss, no muss. You don't need to have painted armies or anything like that. We want you to have 1,000 points built and ready to go so you can learn Conquest. It's still going to be in a tournament format, so you'll still learn the tournament format and using chess clocks and things like that, but with a lot more open information, a lot more friendliness behind it, and again, like I said, no pressure at the end of the day. Besides that, we actually have 2 wooden spoons at the end of that one, so for the team that takes the bottom spot, there will be a special prize for both of you. And if I can luck have my way, so to speak, I'm going to have a wooden spoon and fork to get off of that.
That'll be pretty good.
Yep.
But yeah, I really do like that format. Just like makes it a little easier for people who are, they've played the game a little bit, but they want to get into the more organized competitive play. It gives them a good stepping off point. But yeah, other events we have going on. There is an Age of Sigmar Path to Glory we have going on using the Ravaged Coast book that came out pretty recently. For those of you who don't know, Path to Glory is Age of Sigmar's narrative system. Instead of creating a list as you would in the standard organized match play, it's designed around a narrative theme. So you have an army with characters that take and hold territory that let you take different units, right? So instead of your like standard battalions is I believe what they are now.
They have regiments.
Regiments is the word, thank you. Your restrictions are based off the territories you hold, right? And Ravaged Coast adds in different abilities and rules and all that. So I believe that's going on throughout the week. There's not a set day for that. You just got to sign up, get the Ravaged Coast book, and build up your army.
Yep, which we did get a bunch more of those on restock, so we'll have those in the near future if they haven't arrived by the time you see this video. But Mike Arnett is helping us run that event, which has been super awesome. But yeah, to your point, it is a bi-weekly show-up. So you got 2 weeks to come in and play your games, check in, and then we go on to the next chapter of that, so to speak. But I didn't realize it was territory-based. I opened the book and I haven't read it yet.
No, Path of Glory since Age of Sigmar has come out has been like territory style.
Yeah, that's
right?
so cool. I love that. And then I guess a little clarification on that too is that we won't be using any of the Path to Glory stuff from our battle tomes just to keep things as simple as possible. Right. We're condensing it into one book, which is cool. I'm down for that because we can always expand on it later, which is cool. Next up, we actually have a community event. So we had a community member come up to us. Paul, appreciate you. He is going to be running on April 6th. We're doing a Learn to Play Battletech, specifically the Total Warfare rules format. So we're looking forward to this. We really appreciate him coming in. You're going to be able to come in, and just like standard, it's going to be $10 in, $10 back to you in store credit, but you get to learn how to play Battletech. And I think that's awesome because Battletech Classic versus Battletech Alpha Strike is very different. And so he's going to be doing the classic Total War format, which I think will be really cool. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. I'm actually planning on going myself because Battletech seems like a really interesting game to me. But I definitely want to learn to play to figure out how to play it. I'm not picking up that rule book and reading through it on my own. Also, I believe on the 6th is the Bolt Action Sea Lion narrative event that we have going on. Yes. This one is also a bi-weekly like event that we have going on. It's been going on since I believe February 9th was the first one for that.
Good memory. I have no idea.
But it's been an ongoing narrative campaign about the Operation Sea Lion, which is, for those who don't know, the theoretical situation of what would have happened if the Axis powers actually invaded Great Britain, right? So it's a good like what if scenario of Winston Churchill fighting off the Nazis, you know, in the streets of London type stuff. So if you're into Bolt Action, you want to play, like come in this Sunday, get talking to people, get involved with it. It's a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Follow up with that, we're looking to the future next week. We're looking at next Saturday then, April 12th. This is going to be our Conquest Community Worlds event, or CWE for short. We run these every other month so that our both new players and as well as our competitive players have a chance to play and score points for the Worlds tournament, which will happen in Greece, which is super cool. This is our next event. We'll have another one 2 months from now. 2,000 points standard, no painting requirement for this event, unlike our August event. But you will be able to come in, play 3 rounds, do your best at scoring, learn a lot, meet the community, and if anything goes to show, we'll probably have 20 plus players for this. We are already sitting at about 18, which would be super, super cool, and I'm looking forward to this one too. A great time. Yes, it is a tournament, but this is probably one of the more friendlier tournaments that we have, because if you make any mistakes, we will teach you along the way too, and I really do appreciate that. So, cool.
Next up, another World War II one. We've got the Flames of War D-Day narrative.
Yeah. This is another community event. This is run by Evan, and we really appreciate him stepping up and doing this for us. This
one's on the 13th for everyone who plans to show up for that, and I'm looking forward to it. Like, I think it'll be a lot of fun. I haven't done too much with Flames of War myself, but it looks like a really interesting game.
It is, yeah. Flames of War and Team Yankee are both done by Battlefront Miniatures. I was going to say Studios, but I think it's Battlefront Miniatures. Probably the most unique thing is, obviously, first glances, they're 15mm models. They're much tinier, but still played on a 6x4 table, which is cool. The other big unique thing is that all of the vehicles still have armor facings, but they're not your standard crisscross. They're actually box armor facings. So you have to pass the tank to be able to see the side of it, even if you can see the side. Makes things very clean and easy to play, but in this event, it's going to be really interesting because you can sign up as either Axis or Allies powers. Of course, if there's an unbalance in anywhere, we might have, you know, some Germans playing on the American side. Maybe we had some rebels or whatever it may be. But that being said, we are going to try to keep it as true as possible to the D-Day landing, which would be really fun. This will be played over a minimum of 4 tables, maximum of 6, and that's because they're going to be all tied together, and there will be basically mega battles going on, which is really cool. I believe Evan was talking about having about 6 people per side on one of the main tables, which would be a lot of fun.
That'll be a lot, particularly with like the scale of the miniatures. Like that really represents like the scale of those battles, right?
Yeah, we went out of our way. We got a couple of different mats ordered up specifically for the D-Day landing portion of it itself. But we also have a person from Battlefront Miniatures coming in, helping support with some tables and terrain and things like that. But let me be very clear. 90% of this is Evan. So without Evan, this wouldn't happen. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. This is going to be really cool. And we will do some Team Yankee events in the near future as well. What do we got next? Ooh, our Star Wars Shatterpoint beginner event. This one's going to be a lot of fun. This is going to be on April 24th. The idea for this is that, Did you notice it's the middle of the week? That's right, it's still a Thursday. So it is an event like a tournament, but the idea is that we're actually teaching people how to play within time. So we're going to get 90-minute rounds, which is great. But there's only going to be 2 rounds of play. The idea is you come in, you play and have fun, but there's a little bit more structure to this rather than just kind of an open hangout and meet up and play. Brian's going to have a lot more to talk about this, but I am looking forward to this because this will be the first step into the far future, right? Or from a galaxy not so far. You're Luke. You say the line.
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Thank you. That's what I was trying to
Call me
get
Skywalker.
I'm terrible at puns, and I'm sure my cameraman here wants to shoot me at this point.
He didn't say no.
But at this point, we are trying to gear up for our May the 4th Star Wars Shatterpoint tournament, which is going to be a lot of fun. That will actually be a more standardized, structured tournament. We'll be doing that May the 4th, which I believe is a Sunday, which will be cool. So we're getting in early, coming in, playing, I think, 3 to 5 rounds, depending on how many players we actually get. So please, the more people to sign up, the more that we have to do, but the more fun we get to have. So I think that kind of covers all for the events this time.
That's all of our events, yeah.
Cool. All right, from here, we are going to go ahead and move on to some hobby progress. So what hobby progress do you want to talk about, Luke?
Well, unfortunately, I don't have anything yet. I've been working on it. It's just not ready to show off yet.
So that's perfectly fine. What have you been working on?
I have been working on recently my Dark Elves for Old World, actually. I managed to get some pretty recently, so I have exactly 1 model painted. It's a banner bearer, but he looks pretty sick. I'll bring him and some others that I've worked on in the near future.
You know, it's funny because my brain, I'm still very much in the Age of Sigmar world of things. So when Age of Sigmar transitioned over, because clarify, I never played the old world, so fantasy battles, right? So when you said Dark Elves, I immediately thought Daughters of Cain. So when you were like banner bearer, and I was like, oh, that's kind of weird.
Wait a second.
All right, like you do your thing, but that's right. The Dark Elves were a very big mixed society. So you had everything from like the Hydras.
It was witch elves all the way to the Corsairs to even the more like organized discipline aspects of their military, like the Dread Spears and the Bleak Swords, right?
Ooh, yeah.
So the model I'm painting is a Harganeth Executioner, but like I've also got some witch elves that I'll work on. I can bring those in too, and yeah.
That'd be cool. Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to see it. What's your favorite unit from the Dark Elves?
Ooh, I would have to say probably the Shades. So Dark Elf Shades, for those who don't know, are a skirmisher unit. This is for Ian's benefit. 100% for Ian's benefit. They're a skirmisher type unit. They scout forward, they ambush and all that. And they've got repeater crossbows. And like their role is cool, like all that's really interesting. I like them for their lore because they're basically like the backwoods hillbillies of the Dark Elf society. Where like, they're like your highway bandits, like living in their clans out in the wilderness and popping out and shooting with their repeater crossbows and then disappearing again.
Saying, get off my property.
Exactly that. Exactly that.
We're gonna have that quote put on the wall. The backwoods hillbillies of the old world.
Yes. But they're a lot of fun. I like them.
That does sound cool. That does sound cool. Yep. And then I actually have with me part of my Adepticon army. So as obviously I mentioned, this is kind of partly our Adepticon episode. And we traveled up to Milwaukee this time because they moved it out of Schaumburg from Chicago area up into Milwaukee. It was great. Honestly, the drive for me wasn't that much more. It was a 4.5-hour drive to a 5.5-hour drive. I didn't even notice the difference. We were pretty much yakking the whole way, and it was a good time. But I did manage to finish up most of my Seraphon. I obviously want to do more detailed work on it, but I'm very happy with how they turned out in the end. We had a fairly awesome showing. Our team had a great time. We got to play 4 out of 5 rounds, which was fantastic because we basically all got very tired and we're like, we need to go home. Otherwise, we were going to get home at 2 in the morning, and none of us wanted to do that. But to all of our opponents that we did play against, we had a fantastic time. And I will say this, the community at large for Age of Sigmar has definitely grown like a lot in the last 2 to 4 years. The competitive scene is truly amazing. The game is so well balanced that you can have these horrible dice rolls. I'm talking like 20 Dread Scythe Harridans making an 11-inch charge, attacking with 60 dice and killing 1 model.
Yep.
All the way to it balancing out in the end, and we ended up losing that game by 6 points. It was a ton of fun. We had an amazing display board that we did finish and get set up, and we will have that actually on display here at the store. So if you want to come in and check that out in the near future, you'll be able to. But I had a lot of fun with my Seraphon, my Year of the Dinosaur army. My Agrodons were absolutely the MVP, followed very closely my little skink shaman here. That guy, everybody just makes fun of him, but the fact that he is a single cast, my Salon can see through him to throw out a spell, and he can shake his stick to make my guys have crit auto wounds on a 2+.
Honestly, that ability that the Skink Chief has basically always had for like passing out the spell through the Salon.
Okay.
Fantastic. Right? From fantasy on to even Age of Sigmar, it's a very good like utility piece.
Yeah. And so one of the really cheeky things too, we can kind of jump into just a little bit of Ermshire General here because I don't have much to say. But one of the things that I learned is that when the Salon does that ability, you use the Skink Chief, is that what you call him?
Yes.
I just call him my little skink priest. So
or Oracle.
Oracle, yeah,
one
I
of
think
the
you're right. When you do that, you do all line of sight and origin of casting from that model. That also means that technically that model is the one that has the source origin for it. So when I cast a endless spell, a manifestation through him, it is now tied to him. It is not tied to my Salon, even though my Salon can get the +1 to cast.
Interesting.
Make matters even weirder, what I learned as well, because, I know how to play my own army, but I'm so glad that I talked to Seraphon players. The Salon has a spell on there that he can cast and give other wizards near him +1 to cast. If he uses that spell to cast through the skink, it comes back and it gives the Salon a +1 to cast. So weird interactions.
So just infinite feedback loop of magic?
It's not infinite feedback.
But
you can
the
only go
feedback
once.
loop of magic.
Yeah. So there was one point where I had my fun little spell familiar here that I needed to roll an extra d6, which you get to decide after you roll the cast. I was like, you know what? I'm going to use the extra +1, so I'm going to do the cheekiness. I'm going to cast it through it. I got +1 to cast. He's got +1 naturally. I'm going to roll my dice, and I rolled a 3. For a whopping 5. So anyway, I used the spell familiar, and I go ahead and roll that, and I rolled a 1. I casted the spell on a 6.
Hey, it's not how you get there, it's that you get there, right?
Let me tell you, Age of Sigmar, all 3 games we played, we had a ton of fun with the opponents, but all 3 games there was just some wacky moments like that, and we all just scratched our heads and we're like, how did we get out of this? If you haven't had a chance to play Age of Sigmar, please take some time to do so. But yeah, these are my fun little guys. I got them all finished and painted up for the most part. I'm super happy with my jungle themes. So cool. All right, so at this point, we are going to jump into the last little bit of what I'm going to call the Adepticon review. I do want to talk to Luke a little bit about that and share my thoughts and experiences with you. And then from there, we're going to talk to Brian. So we are going to talk a little bit about Adepticon. So before I totally just spill the beans on everything, what questions do you have for me?
So really, I guess my first thing was like, we all saw the reveals. We all they streamed a lot of like the big games and all that. So all that was really cool. What was your favorite thing about Adepticon that someone who didn't go wouldn't have seen?
Okay.
Right.
So that's actually a really good one. And I appreciate that because to understand that, I need to explain a little bit about prior Adepticons at the Schaumburg facility. I don't remember the name of that, but it was in Schaumburg, Illinois. So when you were there, Adepticon to me is a Warhammer and every kind of tabletop miniature kind of event, tournament, painting exercise, workshop, whatever it may be, tabletop miniature, the whole thing all in one, thing. And what they did was they really broke that up into 2 hemispheres originally, then became kind of 3, and then at one point they really had to sacrifice things, throw in the historicals to a different hotel entirely, and that was a struggle and yada yada. But they had the vendor hall down the center, okay? So when you got in, you got oohed and awed by, the bits guy from Toledo, and you got to go in and see the vendors, and on the left-hand side it was everything from Atomic Mass Games, and at the time Fantasy Flight and all that. And on the right side it was GW and all their stuff wherever, it was super cool. And then right down the center it was vendors trying to show you their games and teach you the stuff. This was the first year that I saw an artist alley. And it was really cool to see some unique creations. And I don't just mean 3D printed stuff. I mean literal painters, literal fabricators. There was a guy, and to me this one seemed weird, but there was a really cool appeal to it. He was selling apparel.
Okay. You're talking like shirts and sweaters and stuff?
I am, as if it was cyberpunk though. Everything was like a cyberpunk jacket and helmet and like, acrylic armor and stuff like that. It was really, really cool if you're into that stuff. It was really weird for me to see. Right?
I bet.
No, it was cool. Like, I got to pick it up and look at a lot of the things. I think in prior years, I've seen some companies do that with, like, they take Nerf guns and gear them up. No, these were actually made and manufactured by this group, and that was really cool to see. But there were also people that had obviously designed their own games, and because they had grown so much this year, there was a lot that was going on in the vendor hall, which was part of the main area, but there was 3 floors to this year. It wasn't.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was pancaked levels of different things you could do. They had the open play on the very far right-hand side, or at least from my perspective, it was the far right, probably the east side of the facility. So that was great because they had those tables set up and were going pretty much 24/7 because the interior was locked down at 12 o'clock. So you could go in and just play, and you could see all kinds of things there. But they had BattleTech that was sitting outside of it. They brought their armored pods, but those were on the lower level.
Yeah.
So if you came across from the hotels and you were on floor 2 and you never went downstairs, you never saw that. So this was the first time that we got there early, for starters. We left Thursday morning and we got there at about Thursday afternoon. And we started walking around, and what's the first thing we were going to do? We're going to go to the vendor hall, right? We're going to go check out the cool stuff. And I basically had to stop because it was, wait, there's 3 escalators. Which way do I go? And I was like, there was a lot that was going on. So we ended up going to the vendor hall first, and we checked all that. And as we were coming out, that's when we realized, wait a minute, what is over here in this corner and all this? So we got to talk to a lot of people that were doing some of their original stuff and original designs, which was really cool. And one of the guys that was one of the 3D printers there, he was actually interviewed during it. I think both with Games Workshop and I think with Atomic Mass.
Okay.
For some of the creations that he'd done in 3D printing, and we got some of his samples, which are really cool. He actually 3D printed the QR code to his website on the back of his things. Like, and it
That's
worked.
pretty inventive.
Yeah, it was really cool because it was very smooth, very slick. We got to see mini wargaming. Actually, it was really funny. I got a chance to talk with Matt at the booth, so that was a lot of fun. And the last time I saw him and Dave was at Games Workshop's Games Day 2011 in Chicago, and I'm going to tell you right now, we will port in some footage because I found it where I and my buddy Stefan get interviewed by Dave, and we all look like babies. It's hilarious. It is Games Day 2011. It is exactly 1 minute and 3 seconds in, and it is probably the best, like 2.5 seconds. It's great. It's great. I screenshotted it today, so we'll make sure to share that with you guys. And then after having talked with those guys about their Ravaged Star and then their conjunction with one-page rules and helping getting some of the stuff printed out, I got to see that stuff. There's a lot. But like really the big thing is don't get just sucked into the vendor hall and think that that's the only thing. There is an upstairs, a downstairs, a lower level. Go look around and talk to people. Like that's a big thing. Because I didn't know until I started talking to people. We did make it down to the lower level though, where they had the Conquest, War Machine, one-page rules, BattleTech, and Horse Heresy was in the very back. Those 5 big events were going on, and then they had intermixed some like learn to play events for some stuff. Okay. So we actually got to play, test play one of the new miniatures games that's coming out. Oddly enough, by Golden Dragon Games. So there's somewhere out there, there's a video where Golden Dragon Games is teaching Golden Rhino Games how to play, and I think that's kind of hilarious. That's a really cool game. That is a alternate history, kind of like Conflict 47. Okay. It's as if Europe and anything like that never really happened. Okay. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And that's an alternating activation system, and there's a lot of like back and forths in there, and it's really good actually. Their models are all designed in-house, which are super cool. Very World War II-esque because that's what they're going for, but then with like the Roman Empire themes. Okay. And a slight grimdark feel to it. I actually got to play the French Resistance, which is like the Horde Army. Yeah. Do you remember the little 2D side-scroller Metal Slug? Yes. Okay. Yep. Their tanks look like that with French hats and things. It is awesome. They get a chicken walker. It's great. I had a ton of fun with it. So yeah, I'm hoping to hear from those guys, and maybe down in the future when they can get some plastic prints or whatever, we can carry that stuff in store. But yeah, that was super cool to see all that kind of unique stuff. And then, yeah, there was a lot. Yeah. What's your other question? What's another question?
I mean, honestly, I don't know if I want to ask anything else. We're going to be here for a while.
Yeah,
but,
that's okay.
No. But like, really, that was my big one. Is like, because I didn't get a chance to go to Adepticon this year, unfortunately.
Well, one of us had to work.
One of us had to work, and it's gonna be me. But just like hearing about like the different like games and all that they have going on, because like it's cool to see the big ones like Warhammer and Conquest, Age of Sigmar, 40K, all those, right? The games that we all know and love. Yep. But like, there's more to the wargaming community than that, and I think one thing that we're seeing a lot of now that I really like is people branching off into different games whether it's, stuff like Shatterpoint and Legion to this new one that's not quite Europe World War II, right?
Yeah.
There's a little bit of something for everyone, and like, that's really cool.
Yeah. Oh, and there was another one. I apologize. I've got the memory of a goldfish. I remember what things look like. I can't remember their names to save my life. The only reason I can remember Golden Dragon Games is for obvious reasons, right? The other one, though, that was really unique and interesting is it's a miniatures trading card game.
Interesting.
It is as if Magic the Gathering and Warhammer really did have this collective offspring. You have a lot of card mechanics that work into it, but the detailed miniatures they had in there, honestly, I got told about it and I had to run to the booth and check it out. One of their Giants miniatures is a giant that is impaled through the head and jaw into the arm, and it's a terrain feature. And that is something that you have to fight around.
I need this in my life.
Yeah. It's got kind of a, kind of one of those creepy level, like, not Death May Die. I'm drawing a blank on the miniatures game on it, but it's got some dark elements to it for sure. So yeah, Kingdom Death. Yeah, Kingdom Death is what it was. That it's got some very similar elements to that, but not quite as far deep into it. And the unique characters that they had for it were really, really cool. So that was a really cool one to check out. Once again, really wish I could remember any of their names at all. But yeah, there was a lot of different a lot of different games that we got to check out there. Marchers Empire War. Yes. That's the game for that one from Golden Dragon. That was a lot of fun. But I would like to take a step back for a moment and kind of like talk a little bit about my history, I guess, with Adepticon and why this store exists, right? So from my perspective, Adepticon has been a fantastic resource for me, not only to have fun and play at, right, but to see all the cool new stuff, right? And I can't tell you how many times I've been like, why can't we get any of this stuff like anywhere else, right? That's why we carry Drop Fleet, actually. That was one of the games I discovered there. That's why we carried some of the Atomic Mass games, because I got introduced to them for the first times at Adepticon and things like that. And this year was another one of those years where I was like, okay, this facility grew, 33% or more. What new stuff did they add, right? And so you really get to go around and see all the new things going on. And what I will tell you is that the future is golden. There are a lot of new upstart companies that, if anything like Grimdark, Trench Crusade.
Trench Crusade, yeah.
Anything like Trench Crusade is to give you an idea of what is to come. If any of these like 10 other games survive at all, we will be that much better for it, honestly.
For sure.
I will say, though, they were very much in their infancy. There's a lot of like, here's our very early beginner packaging, our 3D printed models. But the amount of 3D printed models that just look phenomenal these days, like honestly, stepping into the one-page rules booth and then being like, we're upgrading to plastic sounds amazing, but the quality is identical, right? Like you can see where the models come from. So
I really do appreciate that, like the technology for that has gotten to the point where it makes these smaller companies able to start out like this, right? Because then they can show off the talent that their own people have in making models, right? They don't have to go the full investor into plastic production and all that. They get to produce the models first, show people what they want, and then later invest in that. And I think that's really what makes that kind of thing happen.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you could definitely see that there's a lot of community involvement, right? And then from there they go, okay, yeah, we have enough of a following.
Yes.
What can we do with this, right? And yeah, so the Golden Dragon guys were super cool, because while I'm doing the demo with them for Marcher, literally the one guy's over there on a tablet working on a new creation.
That's cool.
Like literally right there, like designing some of the stuff. While the other guy is building terrain and the other guy is, getting drinks and whatever. I was like,
you're going to have to work for the next Adepticon. I want to see this.
Yeah, we might all have to go. Let me tell you, it was super cool. But the layout for Adepticon was awesome this year. The swag bag was nuts once again. It was like, I think it was like $150, and I walked away with like a Skaven Tide and like a bunch of other things. Like the amount of Skaven Tides they gave away are both very cool, slightly disturbing if you read between the lines. But what I will say is that if half of the people that got Skaven Tide that didn't already have it stick with it and keep it, we just gained that many more Age of Sigmar players. And like honestly, I know I talk about a lot of games and a lot of games being my favorite. I just played 4 games of Age of Sigmar, so I'm going to say Age of Sigmar one more time, right? But that game really proved to me that Games Workshop was like, actually, we can make this that much more friendly, and that's really what it feels like. I really get to enjoy that. Now, Here is my hot take. You ready for this?
Go for it.
It's the T word. What do you think I mean by the T word?
I want to say tournament.
Nope, it's terrain.
Terrain.
Okay, so this is my interesting hot take, and anybody that went to Adepticon that walked around any of the floors can talk maybe and throw in their opinions and whatnot. Please leave your comments down below, right? But the more competitive the game was, the less visually striking the terrain was.
Oh, for sure.
Okay?
Yeah.
I know you kind of knee-jerk and go right into it or whatever,
Yeah.
but it was baffling how bad it was. So me, as a Warhammer 40k fan, I love Warhammer 40k, and seeing the armies this year in the display boards was phenomenal. But every table was identical.
Yep.
And when I mean identical, like to the letter. They were the exact same T's, the exact same L's, the exact same square pads. And I get that is fun for the competitive mindset because you get this paintball effect where you are, you're hiding from each other. But the irony in that is that I remember when we had a binary rule system for saves, right? And this to me feels like the physical representation to that, right? But that's okay, not the end of the world. People had fun, and there were obviously a ton of people there, so I'm not going to bash it for that. But I just thought it was kind of lacking. And then you even get into like Conquest, and it had some very dynamic setups and really, really cool stuff. Bill and some of the guys from Northern Michigan area, they actually 3D printed a lot of the terrain for the event, so it looked awesome. But even that you could see once it got into like the 2K competitive tournaments or whatever, it was very, very static or whatever, and it was kind of a flashpoint into what we're going to look at. But that looked good. That had some unique designs and template layouts. And then you got to War Machine, and they had downlanders and like a crash ship, and there were the cities and pieces they were fighting behind. And yes, they were standardized, but the hills were different, the trees were different, the buildings were different. And I always thought of War Machine as the little bit more competitive game, and I kind of have to step away from that and be like, no, the C word is the wrong word. It's the T word that's the problem.
I think that really speaks to kind of to your point about like this game's more competitive, this game's less, is it speaks to the design philosophy of those games, right? Where like, you said paintball, right? That kind of paintball feel for the terrain. And I want to go that far of like it being made bland intentionally, so much as it's made to make it so that player skill is the sole determining factor of who wins a game or not. Because we've all had games where, like, particularly when you're newer and you don't really understand like how to set up a table, where a terrain is player set up, and then you realize this isn't set up in a way that's fair to me or my opponent, right? I have an unfair advantage or he has an unfair advantage, and the game's kind of decided off that. And so, speaking in defense of the competitive mindset, the reason why Adepticon is set up that way for the very competitive players and the very competitive tables is because they want those players to feel like they're not at the mercy of player placed terrain.
Correct.
Right?
No, 100%. And
I do agree they could have made it a little more visually interesting, but ultimately that's not the intent there, right?
I'm going to now pivot and argue that against that. And the only reason I'm going to do that is because Age of Sigmar, every table was tournament standardized, and every table was different.
For sure.
And that terrain was nuts. I got some pictures, hopefully I can share in this to show off for that. But there was like this haunted underground area where these statues are like tied and bound and cool columns and things like that. And then you go to the next one and it's a dragon, like with all the lava kicking up around it or whatever. And but Age of Sigmar has found a way to make that. Honestly, it's a shooting aspect. I could deep dive that later. That's for another garbage video. But like, yes, I get it. When you get to a competitive level, you do not want some third-party element to be the problem. Right? You want your opponent or your mistake to be the problem, right? I, once again, forgot my little ability with these little guys, right? And that probably cost me D3 mortal wounds, which cost me the game. Like, I can legitimately say that in one game I forgot a rule, and that cost me the game. I'm not mad about it, right? But I also like to play in these visually striking boards. And the reason I bring it up is because the Star Wars boards were insane. The level of detail. You walked by and they didn't even look like 6-foot boards at that point. They looked like 8 or 10-foot boards because the scale of some of the buildings they had set up between Shatterpoint and Legion alone.
Shatterpoint has fantastic terrain. Just looking at it, like not having played it myself yet, I want that terrain because I think it looks fantastic and it works for a vast majority of games out there.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
It was really good to see, and that was funny because that was up there, and then you go into the basement, and then you see the one-page rules guys, and those tables were all thematically different. My takeaway from it, though, was the more skirmishy a game gets, the better the terrain visually looks, because there's less of an impact there. Once you start having larger blocks and bigger impacts and things like that and shooting like that, then you all of a sudden you can kind of see a little bit breakdown. But I was like, that's kind of an interesting, that's my hot take, right? And that is my only gripe. That's it. The whole event, the whole being there, the playing in the events, the seeing people, oh my God, the amount of people that came up to me that recognized me that I didn't even know. Like, I appreciate that. Like, don't get me wrong, but like, it was baffling all the things that were going on. Yep, my only complaint really was the lack of thematically diverse terrain across all of the games. But hey, what you can do? You can't make it all.
If that's the worst thing that happened, though, that's really good.
And let me be clear too, the terrain wasn't ugly. None of it was ugly. None of it even looked bad, right? It just, the 40K ones were really like,
copy paste.
It was, yeah. There could have been a video game is what it felt like. But that's me. I love my narrative stuff. I love my interactions and things like that. So, cool. Any last thoughts for Adepticon?
I think that's it.
Cool. All right, so we are going to go ahead. We're going to bring on Brian to talk about more Star Wars and Star Wars events. This should be a lot of fun because we got a bunch of events, activities coming up. But more importantly, we want you to get involved with Star Wars. So stay tuned. All right, guys, and I've got Brian with me today. Brian has been an awesome community member helping us, well, number one, keep the Star Wars theme going and alive, but also you've really dove into Shatterpoint kind of headfirst, which has been super cool. We've been able to run a monthly meetup, which we're looking at definitely increasing the flux on that based on the number of attendance. But before we get too far into it, Brian, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I absolutely love Star Wars. I am a giant Star Wars nerd, always have been. If you see the bucket here, I am actually a member of the 501st Legion, so I'm a stormtrooper, TK13723. And then,
but who's counting?
Who's counting? Yeah, you gotta create a little call sign. But yeah, beyond that, I mean, I love other stuff beyond Star Wars, but this is my baby. This is what I grew up with, and I'm not a child of the Star Wars era. Like, I was born in '83, so back when Empire first came out, right? But my older brothers all had the Star Wars toys, and so the hand-me-downs were Star Wars toys.
Yeah.
And that's what I got.
Yeah, that's for sure. I was gonna say, so what got you into the tabletop hobby?
Oh, Legion was the first thing where I was like, let me check out Legion. And I enjoyed it, and we have a friend in common, Tim. I call him Evil Tim. Back when we were playing D&D, he always did evil action, so we called him Evil Tim. And so I checked out Legion because he always talked about Warhammer. He's like, oh, if you get Legion, I'll check it out and I'll play it. And I like it, but it's a little lengthy for the gameplay. So I'm really interested about the new Legion stuff that's coming out. So that's what kind of got me into it, but I didn't really have time for games. And then lo and behold, Shatterpoint comes and it's skirmish style, much quicker. Once you learn a game, you can get it in like 90 minutes plus setup and takedown. Which
I was going to say, kind of like to segue into the Legion for a half second. One of the nice things about the new edition is that you actually don't start on the table, which sounds so backwards. Like, why don't you start on the table? It's because instead of taking 45 minutes to set up, I put a unit on the table and I move, and now it's your action. And now you go on. So that game actually plays a little bit faster because of that. Because the very first round is literally us back and forth putting units on. And if we have range, we then get to attack and things like that. So that's kind of interesting. But honestly, length of playing a game matters a lot these days, right? So
yeah, that's interesting thinking about like how, not to segue too much into Legion here, but like there's a lot of units that deploy much further out. So like, how do you play those now, knowing that you don't really see what's going on? That's interesting.
Interesting, right? Yeah. To be fair, I do want to get into that a little bit more and learn the new rule set, but I'll wait for the new starter sets to come out, to be perfectly honest. So cool. All right. So I know I kind of asked you like what got you into Star Wars Shatterpoint and things like that, but like let's kind of dive into what makes this game so unique for you.
Yeah, so first and foremost, one of the things I love about this game is you cannot have a unit one-shotted. They can't remove the board with one hit. Thinking of my learning game with Legion, I was like, I explained to this guy, hey, 500-point list, I need something really basic. Turn one, he flattens a whole unit. I didn't even get to activate. I'm like, what? And so, yes, you can get a guy knocked out in a single hit. It's rare, but it can happen. Somebody very aggressive like Grievous can do it. but people have multiple life bars that you got to go through, and there's penalties for coming back. But that's one of the things that really made it appealing to me is it's a little bit friendlier. And then the thematic of mixing and matching really appealed to me as well. It's not like you can't put, with Legion, you're segmented to these armies, versus with Shatterpoint, they do it by era. So whenever you're doing building a squad, Obi-Wan's a primary. We can then team up Obi-Wan with Kraken down there. So, because Kraken is of the same era. It's mainly by point buys. And then for there, if we wanted to run the B2s with them, as long as we had the point acclamation, we can do that. You can get into a lot of these really cool what-if scenarios.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that is a what-if scenario.
And then even between your two squads, if you had Squad 1 being Clone Wars era, you could do Squad 2, Age of Rebellion. So you can mix and match between those, and you do have some people that go between the two different eras.
Transcend the time.
Yes, like the Bad Batch can be both Clone Wars era and Age of Rebellion. So you have a lot of list building with that.
Those guys are old.
They are.
No, that's really cool. That is actually really unique. I thought for sure you were going to say like, the dice mechanic or the terrain or
the dice are really nice as well. One of the things with Shatterpoint is if you score a hit, it's not one damage.
Right.
Everybody has these little cards, and with it, one hit is one box, which could be damage, it could be shoving, it could be healing, putting a condition on somebody. Because this game isn't so much about taking people out. You can force units to leave the board, but it's more about controlling the board, controlling the area, and manipulating other people's minis and figures and that kind of stuff there through your actions. But of course, you can easily have somebody get taken out.
Eventually, right? Yeah.
I had the 2 times ago, I think I played against Alex, and they took one of my units off the board first round. I was over aggressive and I paid for it.
Yeah, that'll happen. I mean, so I think that's a miniatures game in a nutshell, though, right? Is that overextending yourself, trying to take advantage of a situation can be costly. But like you said, one of the reasons that I was really excited when Shatterpoint was first announced was that it had this 4D chess element to it, but I could not be alpha striked. What a concept. Not losing a unit right away and just kicking, half of your army list out, or even a third or 10%, right, can just be so demoralizing right away. Like, how do I come back from that? And the fact that this game has this literally a momentum, a push and shove back and forth mechanic for scoring, I thought was really unique and interesting.
Yeah, and there's mechanics so that way that momentum builds and it reduces the amount of back and forth that you can have. That's how it's played. It's over a series of 3 struggles, or best out of 3. And the first struggle normally takes quite a while. The next struggle, a little shorter. That last struggle, everybody's really down and beat up, and it goes quick.
Okay, so let's pause there for a hot second, because Shatterpoint's been around for almost 2 years.
We're going to,
This will be our second year, right, in July or June, something like that?
June, July, yeah.
So if you are new to Shatterpoint, how do you win? How do you play the game, right? Let's talk about the bare bone basics mechanics, if you would.
So the best way to say it is you have these little missions. Missions
These
have
are struggles, right?
And there's several different missions that do the objective layouts for you, and it is as you capture points, you move this momentum tracker across the board. I should have brought the momentum tracker over here, but it's all right. And you manipulate this dice and go back and forth on the level of points that you have captured. But if you also knock somebody out, you gain a momentum. If you move the struggle tracker, which would be you taking a certain amount of points on your turn and it doesn't cross over the 0 mark, you gain a momentum. So even though it might still be on the enemy's turn or enemy side, you are gaining momentum and making your side shorter, so you have less runway to have to worry about if you manage to pull the game back.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that's super cool. And the fact that it's broken up into 3 different segments means that you kind of have this shifting nature, right? Yep, we got it all the way this way. I've got this struggle in the bag. Okay, it's reset. Now where is it, right? And now your objectives move?
So example here is if we were moving on to struggle 2, we have 3 cards represent struggle 2. The person that lost the struggle 1
like that one
picks that. And then this always faces the first player. And then whoever lost, though, gets to choose the more favorable layout. And so different different missions have different rules, different layouts.
Nice.
The shifting priorities, which comes with the core set, is very well balanced. Doesn't favor melee or ranged. It's pretty well spread out versus Never Tell Me the Odds, I think, is more oriented towards range. And Sabotage Showdown is a melee extravaganza.
Oh, nice.
First Contact, which is the new one coming out next week.
Yep.
I don't know what that prioritizes.
Yeah,
but yeah,
we will find out soon enough, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you've played for a while, right? You've played it pretty consistently.
Yep.
What is something that you would like to see in the game, right? This could be rules, terrain, new models, just a wish list moment, right?
Ooh, yeah, so we don't have Yoda or Palpatine, and we're guessing they weren't announced at Adepticon, which I figured they were, and I know there's a big focus on Legion, but I'm guessing during Mini Extravaganza or whatever it is, AMG's thing in July, I'm guessing we'll see one of those two, especially given we have a secondary Darth Vader. When I say secondary, there is a primary, a squad has to be made up of a primary, a secondary, and a support unit. And so we do have primary Darth Vaders, but not a second. We now have a secondary, but
Who would be the primary?
Who would be the primary?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, so I think Palp is in the works. Gungans, I think, would actually be pretty fun. Droidicas, I think, are my must-have, though. I want Droidicas.
Yeah.
Those are so great. The models, looking back to when I painted the Legion models, I had such a great time painting those, and I love the color scheme of that, like, kind of burnt purple that you can do with them. Granted, you can paint however you want, but I like to try to paint it mostly accurate. So yeah, Droidicas are like I really want that. I'd like to see some sort of monster elements.
Oh, okay.
So like
That
you
would
put
be
down
like maybe two players battling against a monster, or
two players battling, or just one that like moves mechanically based on like an AI card.
oh, so almost like a literal third player like interactive terrain feature.
Yeah, something
That
like
could
that.
be
I think that'd be
crazy.
fun. And then I'm a very big High Republic era. I read all the books. I would love to see High Republic stuff. Sadly, I think Acolyte kind of tainted that for us.
Okay.
That was the Star Wars
Didn't get to see it.
High.
I heard it was pretty cool.
I enjoyed it, but I didn't have as much reception with the public. But like the Stranger from that, or just going to like Avar Kriss or any of those Jedi from the High Republic, I think would be great.
Yeah, that would be super cool. So cool. So I want to talk a little bit more specifically, deep dive into the game. Okay. So would you consider this game a skirmish game? I do.
Yes.
Okay. So from there, one of the like unique elements in any skirmish game is how your models interact with the board. Now, the board itself is, for the most part, I'm going to say structured or standardized when it comes to objectives and layouts and placements and things like that, right? What is the, like, how do you feel about the terrain in this kind of game?
So for Shatterpoint itself, I absolutely love the terrain. It is wonderfully done. As Luke was saying earlier, it can go really well with many different games.
Okay.
I was
going to say the scale seems pretty close to Legion or any other skirmish game,
Yeah,
really.
they're 40 millimeter bases by default. You have a couple guys that are a little bigger. So the board building is one of the things I do go over whenever we...
I'm sorry, I love building terrain. So yeah, like when you say board building, I'm like, yeah, let's build some terrain or whatever. But you mean actually setting up
setting up, yes.
the table.
Yes, well, whenever during the monthly meetups, if there's somebody brand new, I talk about the importance of a terrain, how to do it nicely. Because one of the things that is really big in this is levels of play.
So height matters.
Height matters, yes, height matters.
You have the high ground.
Exactly. We got it. But because of that, when you get the core set, it comes with these bunches of ladders.
Yep.
And ladders you can use as free egress points to go up. So if there's a ladder right here, if you ended your turn within a certain range of that ladder, you can go up for free.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
However, there's characters that have abilities like jump.
I was going to say, like the Mandalorians have jetpacks, right?
Yes, and so by putting these ladders all over the place, you kind of remove some of the uniqueness of those features. So like, you got to be careful. Like, you can really go over
climb the tree. Why do I have a jetpack?
Exactly. Okay. There are other reasons for it because you can just use an action to climb, but the ladder, like I said, allows you to do a free movement, and like it adds a lot of unnecessary. It takes away from people that it should be bolstering there.
Gotcha. So in other words, actually having an unbalanced table can be important.
Yes, for the learning games, I will set up a balance table and try to do mirror match.
Yeah.
But when because I normally bring 3 tables worth of terrain, and I set it up for folks, and I will try to build an unbalanced table, and then I give each side some scatter that they can put on their side. They choose what side they want to start on. They add the scatter, but I have the buildings built out in the. They can choose whatever mission they wish. But yeah, having an unbalanced board actually makes things a little bit more flavorful and a little bit more fun.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so on that note then, what would you say to somebody that is new, that is trying to get into this game? Like, what's the best way for them to get in? Can they come play with us, right? I mean, I'm gonna hint you, yes. Right? But how does somebody new get into this game and really enjoy it? What's the easiest way to do that?
So first and foremost, Discord, go to the Shatterpoint channel and ask, hey, can anybody teach me? I'll likely say yes.
Let's be fair, right?
Yep.
Yes.
I love this game. I have no issue teaching it. It's a wonderful game and really easy to learn. Beyond that, if you want to buy a product, this is probably it's pricey.
Well, maybe you're saying as far as the go-to set.
Yes. I mean, because you get 4 squads.
Okay.
So you get Anakin, you get Ahsoka, you get Lord Maul, and Asajj Ventress.
Yep.
Squads are normally $50 a box.
Yeah.
So you get 4 squads right there. Plus you get terrain. This is just a bit of the terrain that comes with the core set. You get your dice, you get your measuring sticks. There's not a better deal than the core set. I know it's a little pricey. Some people might go, I think it's like $150 or something like that. But when you look at some of these other starter sets, it's not bad.
I was just gonna say, so let me pause you for 2 seconds, because in the realm of tabletop miniatures and miniature games, right? There's a very big breadth between certain companies, right? Would you say that a single person or couple could pick up this game and treat it like a board game? Everything is in it needed to play.
Yes.
Okay. That's it, right? Because I can't tell you how many times I've gone and gotten even some of the original Shatterpoint. I'm sorry, not Shatterpoint. Legion boxes, right? Where it was actually get that and an extra set of dice. You really probably should, right? Because as soon as you add on, you feel like you're lacking there. But I remember when we opened this up 2 years ago and we were running demos of it and stuff like that. It was a ton of fun, and I was like, wait a minute, we don't have to touch anything else if we don't want to, right? But when you do, that's when you get to add on and have so much more fun with it.
And the characters that come with this set, all right, you got Anakin. Guess who pairs really well with Anakin? Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Or if you want to add to your Separatists. They have really good jumping points. I would love to see, now that they have enough stuff in the Age of Rebellion era, I'd love to see another starter set.
That's what I was wondering. That would be cool to see.
It would be. I don't know who you'd put in it. I don't know because the only way to get Anakin and the people in this set is to buy the starter set. So how do they do?
You just got to put Boba Fett in there.
Boba Fett's out.
That's okay. Maybe now we can have 2 Boba Fetts.
You can. Right. There are other models. That's true. Right. I think we have 3 Vaders now and 3 Leias.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, something like that would be super cool. But all right, so wish listy aside, let's kind of move into our events and activities, right? So first things first, we do have a monthly meetup that we are looking to actually try to bump, maybe even to a bi-weekly meetup, which would be super nice. But let's talk about that a little bit. What does that look like? Yeah, so I think our next one's April 10th. Sure, sounds great. It's on the calendar.
Yep, I believe it's April 10th. And so with that, it is very casual.
To be fair, I pause. So we were always doing the second Thursday, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's always usually the second Thursday of the month currently.
Yep.
But we are trying to increase that frequency. So yes, if April 10th is a Thursday, we're good.
Yeah. So you can show up if you never played the game. I always have the board set and ready to go. I supply all the models, all the training stuff. I will typically, if I know somebody is going to be new, I will set up the core set because it is a great learning experience. That doesn't mean that these models that come with the core set are weak or don't have expansion outside of a core set game. They're just wonderful tools to start with. And so I will, if I don't, somebody new is coming, I'll set that up. Or if you say, you know what, I watched a little bit of this and I really want to check out this unit. I own most units and I have no issue of somebody saying, I'm new to this game, I want to check out this model. I'll have it set for you on the learning game. Beyond that, We typically have 10-ish players.
Yeah, now we do for sure. Last couple of times, I think the time before that we had 16 and we kind of ran out of space, didn't
Yes.
we?
The event hall has been very nice. But yeah, we've been averaging about 10 people, and then we'll set up, like I said, I'll have a couple boards already set up, and other people will bring terrain with them.
Yes.
That is one of the things with the terrain is very specific to this game.
Yep.
The height of each of these buildings actually does matter.
Okay. What's if there was a standardized height? What's a good height for people to think about when bringing terrain if they don't have the actual Shatterpoint specific?
Oh,
like 3.5 inches, 5 inches.
Yeah, whatever this is, that's 4 inches maybe.
Okay, cool. Somewhere in there.
Yeah, 4 inches is a height 1, and that
Okay.
blocks line of sight.
Okay.
And then you can actually have height 2, and then
so
you
on and
can,
so
you can go up from there. So like
Nice.
increments of probably 4 inches is probably the way to go when you think about Legion, or not Legion, Shatterpoint. One of the big things is people like terrain that has all sorts of wonky angles.
Yep.
That doesn't work well for this game just based on the rules. One of the wonky things with this is whenever you do measurement of objectives or line of sight, it's all from a 2D plane.
Oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Which is a
And
little-
a lot of the more common games nowadays, like War Machine does that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that is, I think for me, that's a nice way to clean up game mechanics because now we can have our 3D fun and eat our 2D pie too, right? Like it's easy to find. So,
Yeah, it's a little funky when it comes to line of sight, but everything else is easy enough.
Yeah. Cool. All right, so outside of our monthly meetups, right, we do have a beginners event coming up. That's going to be on the 24th, if I remember correctly, Thursday. And that is going to start later on in the afternoon, just like our monthly meetup would be.
Yep.
You want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so our events that we've been doing, our monthly meetups, have been very casual, which is wonderful.
Yes.
But this game is meant to be played relatively quickly, and with the upcoming May 4th,
May the 4th.
May the 4th tournament, I figured getting everybody used to how to play a faster game. So we're going to
Yeah.
be breaking out the chess clock so that way people can get used to it. There might be people that aren't familiar with Longshanks.
Oh, yes. Good
So
point.
kind of
Yep.
doing an intro to Longshanks. So the idea is you'll come in, you'll play at least one 90-minute round, because with the tournament, you are setting up your mission during that 90 minutes as well. So it's, it's a little bit of learning how to do that quick deployment.
Yeah. It'll be
and
a
then-
learning experience for us all, that's for sure. I'll say that.
Yes, and then if you're then comfortable with like Longshanks and that kind of stuff there, go on and do a second event, a second round. If you aren't, I'm planning on taking a group aside and saying, here's how you set this up, here's how you enter your data, let's get you set so you're comfortable. So ideally, play 2 games, if not, play 1 and learn,
Yeah.
or,
Yeah, so you're looking at 3 hours to 4 hours max of play, which is awesome. So we're looking from starting at around 6 p.m. So obviously if you can arrive early between 5:30, that's great. You meet everybody, get things checked in, understand how things work. And then, yeah, from 6 o'clock till about 9 o'clock, we're going to be playing. And we're going to have a little break in between there as well, which will be really nice. And the nice thing about it is that it's going to be fun and casual.
Yeah.
So even if you are still learning, there's no big deals. There's no downsides, right? When the clock runs out, and the round is over, so to speak, but you're not out of the game.
No.
You don't stop scoring, things like that. So yeah, it'll be really interesting. And this will be a nice icebreaker event for new people as well as the reoccurring people that we've had too.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I'm not a super competitive person. If you see me and you and I are like, hey, Brian, I want to play a game.
I want to play a game, Brian.
I am not showing up with like a meta list. I'm going to show up with something funky and fun because I'm Star Wars guy and I want to play these what if scenarios.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, there's times, I've showed up with Oops All Stormtroopers, which is, these guys are absolutely lovely. Where, I had the Veers and then my Snow Troopers and then my base Stormtroopers with Vader. And so, I played that and I can't wait. I have my Wisdom of the Council pack, which is what now I can do Oops All Lightsabers.
Oh, nice.
Because we had the Padawans.
Yep.
So
That'll be fun.
I know the Padawans aren't very good mechanically when you look at them on paper compared to a lot of other stuff, but it's a fun list.
Yep.
So
Not to mention it's still a dice game.
it's still a dice game, yep, and dice are dice.
Oh yeah, let me tell you. Based off my Adepticon experience, they absolutely are.
Yep.
Positive and negative. Okay, cool. So then after that, let's talk about the May the 4th tournament, right? This is your more structuredized and standardized tournament. So if
Yep.
you've never played in one, cool, that's perfectly fine. This is our first foray into that to get people kind of familiarized and playing with that. We'll be playing on Sunday, which is nice. So it'll be a nice early show up and play time. We're going to be opening the doors at 10 a.m. We will be playing over here because it will not be in the event hall at that time. But that's okay. We'll have the tables reserved as long as you buy your tickets in advance. But Brian, tell me about it.
Yeah. So base will be 3 rounds. If we hit, I forget what the number is.
Greater than 16.
Greater than 16, we then go to 5 rounds with a cutoff. But it's our first foray. So like it's my first foray, and I am not a competitive person. So to me, this is my first time getting into like, oh, I gotta think about actually building a list here. We got a couple folks that are, went to Adepticon and played and stuff. So for them, they are hopefully going to be the veterans that maybe help guide some of this if people see something
we're all
weird.
Here. Yeah, we're good.
But so looking at that, they're we're showing up, gonna get this event going. 3 rounds, 5 rounds, doesn't matter. We'll get it through.
Yep. And they're only the 90-minute rounds, so an hour and a half. What does the list construction format look like?
2 squads. So
2 squads.
2 squads. There's different formats where you do 3 squads or 4 squads. This one we're just doing 2 squads.
Okay.
And so you bring whoever you want to play with, and then that is your squad.
Okay.
Other formats have it so that way you can see who your opponent has and maybe try to list build.
Yeah, so there's like a list trading mechanic almost in
Yeah,
there, right?
but this time here it's just going to be 2 squads.
Yeah,
You show up
yeah.
with your 2 squads. That's your for the tournament. No need for
bring your lunchbox and you're good to go,
Yep.
right? Like,
no need to bring a bunch of extra hooplas.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I like that. I think that'll be really good. And so, yeah, that'll be great because we can do upwards. We're going to be doing, I think, 5 rounds for that if we've got if greater than 16 players. But otherwise, we can do it within the 3 rounds, which would be really cool either way. So, but yeah, we'll make sure to check in a break in there. And it is important that people sign up early and sign up on Longshanks too, so that we have everything ready to go the day before. You can submit your lists on Longshanks if you've never done that before. If you need help, we actually do have a spot for that in our Discord. So you can always tag me, any of the store staff, or obviously Brian, and we can kind of walk you through that. But more importantly, if anything, if you are looking forward to something like this and you want to play more, come in and play more, right? The more people we have show up, the more people that we can have join this community and join the hobby with a capital H in general, the better. Because if we can play Shatterpoint today, we can play Warhammer tomorrow, we can play one-page rules next week, right? So it all depends on the schedules and getting everything lined up, right? It's herding cats. So what event are you looking forward to in the near future?
Do we super secret August stuff?
What do we? Well, you can talk about whatever you want.
The super secret August stuff?
Sure, go for it.
So Ian has asked me to maybe look at doing a narrative section for August. And personal life here, I'm working through school. I should be hopefully done by late July. So August will be a nice reprieve. And so narrative event, there are a few asymmetrical scenarios that I haven't even ever played yet. I can't wait to dig into. Where you get into escort the prisoner or escape the bombardment. And I forget what the third one is there. But that's what I'm really looking forward to and figuring out how do I build this. Because like my background before doing this is I used to be a coordinator for D&D Adventure League at Fun For All.
Oh, okay.
I used to volunteer and do that.
Yep.
And then COVID happened and
things changed.
Things changed.
Sure. Yeah.
And so getting back into that little bit of GMing of thinking of a story, how does X play into Y, play into Z, and how do we progress this? That's really something I'm excited for.
Yeah, and the thing that's great too is that when you have your standardized formats and you have your tournaments and you have this, you get into a nice, very clean, rigid format of, I know where I am, I know what I'm playing, I know who I'm playing against, I know that there's a time wherever. When you get to narrative, there's so much more flow to it, which is a lot of fun. And so that gives you that tug of war, that struggle, right, that you get to really enjoy best of both worlds. And I think, come August, we're gonna have a lot of big events for our 5-year anniversary. I'm really looking far into the future on this one, and I can tell you that the future is golden for sure, right? So it'll be really, really cool to see that, and we'll definitely be able to plan that more once we have this kind of structuredized format figured out. Because yes, it's got the capital T word, it's a tournament, but really the idea is that it's a structuredized and standardized play format, and that'll be really good. Yeah. Cool. So where can people get a hold of you the easiest?
Discord is obviously on there, Brian W. Look up the Shatterpoint thing. I'm also on the Store Champions little section there. You'll see me. That's obviously the easiest. Every second Thursday, I'm here. I'm normally up about once a week picking up a paint bottle of some sort. So even if you're like, hey, I want to leave a message for the Shatterpoint guy, I'm sure you guys can get that to me.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, we can plug that in there for you too, right? And honestly, if you are in our Discord or if you have joined our Discord recently, make sure you get the Star Wars Shatterpoint roll. That's really important because when Brian posts about upcoming things, when we do painting contests, when we just have hangouts, right? Like that's going to be really important because we're going to, hey, Shatterpoint guys, did you know, right?
Yep. And honestly, I've started at least once a week jumping into the hobby chat channel.
I have noticed
and
that.
painting during my lunch break.
Yeah.
I have 2 models left to paint before my next set comes in. I'm determined to get them done.
Good.
I debated jumping on today, but I had some cloak issues. So
It looks great from here. Remember, 3 foot fat.
Yes, exactly.
Cool. All right. Any final thoughts for you, man?
No, just check out the game. I mean, it's don't worry about even, you can come with no knowledge. Come visit us. That is one of the other things I will add. This game plays very well 2-on-2 because everybody's controlling one squad. And for a learning game, I actually like 2-on-2 because there's less for you to realize or less for you to understand because you got a lot of information here. Everything's on these cards versus being in a rule book, which is nice for quick reference, but you also got to then look at it at the table and kind of go like, oh, what's going on here? So instead of looking over 6 cards, you're only looking over 3 with a 2-on-2. So.
Yeah, when we first opened it up, the boxes, we actually did demos. We used half squads. We used just one of the 2, right? And we just pushed up the struggle and the force. Is that the 2, right? We pushed those up so that it was just a quicker, easy win game kind of scenario, which was a lot of fun. But yeah, bring in your friends, come in and play, right? Be a part of the community. That's gonna be a really big part of it. So, yeah. Any final thoughts?
No, I think that covers it for me.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate having you guys all in today. Don't forget, obviously, follow us on social medias and all the Facebooks and Discords and Instagrams. We do have the Patreon, which we actually have our first Patreon, which I really do appreciate that. So thank you, Brian, for being a part of that. Every little penny helps, obviously. Right now, we are just looking basically for tips, ideas, and feedback. If you are part of the $5 spender, you actually get to ask us questions that we will get to talk about in the upcoming shows, which will be really fun. And we just started doing that, so you're definitely not too late to the party. I know this guy's going to ask a few questions.
Oh yeah, I'm going to ask my question right now. Because rumor is you're supposed to be participating next Thursday.
Yes, I was going to say. So you said show up and not have any rules knowledge or anything like that.
Is there a squad you want me to bring?
Well, okay. So to be fair, yes, it's going to be Grievous and the B2s because my goal is to go home tonight and build them up. So I might be able to have them, primed and maybe painted even for that time. But really, I want to try playing with those guys because I do love the CIS. I love the Separatists.
That's who when I built out my Legion stuff, it was mostly CIS.
Yeah, so that'll be cool. Yeah, because I'm going to bring the core guys from that, and I want to play with Grievous.
Yeah, he'll be there.
I like Captain Grasshopper there. So, no, we really appreciate you guys being here and joining us for another episode of Golden Rhino Games Hobby Talk. This has been Brian, and I'm Ian, and we will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.